This is the picture of the Glen-L Gypsy from the plan sheet. In the Part 2 video we completed fiberglassing the bottom of the hull and moved it out of the garage to turn. We showed how we used what we called the kludge with the engine cranes to turn the hull. After completion we modified the building form, set the hull back on it, and pushed it back into the garage for further construction.
The next step on the project was building the cockpit. The seats for the cockpit are cut using full-size plan templates. We fitted the cockpit seats and leveled everything. Once we were satisfied, we removed them and fiberglassed the underside of the seats. We also cut and installed the trim pieces. Then we glued and screwed everything in place. Once the cockpit was completed, we moved on to the next step, which was the hairpin. We simply used the full-size plans and traced it onto the wood. We were careful to get everything level before installing the hairpin. The next step was to extend the connecting pieces to the hairpin. It actually proposed a problem in that the side clamps had to be bent at quite an angle to attach to the hairpin. We found the solution at our local hardware store. We purchased ratcheting tie-down straps and put them around the clamps. Then, it was just a matter ratcheting the straps, which bent everything into place. Once the hairpin was secure, we installed the side plywood to the cockpit area. Under the edge of the cockpit seats there are support boards. The front part of the seats have quite a bend, so we reverted to the layering of thin boards for this. We used the seat as a template and glued each layer to make the curve. Before installing the last cockpit plywood, we cut the top railing pieces. Then we set them aside to install later. Our original plan was to build as much of the interior as we could, while the hull was in the garage. So, at this time we cut and installed the partial front and rear walls. With the walls in place, we built all of the supports for the floor. We made a template for the floor using foam board. Then it was just a matter of transferring the pattern to plywood and cutting it out. The Colonel is happy with the way the cockpit floor turned out. With the cockpit floor in place, we added the remainder of the floor supports for the cabin. Next, we added the remainder of the plywood flooring. With the floor in place, we installed the rear wall pieces. Here is the project so far. We are excited, because the boat is looking awesome. With the floor completed, we started work on the last piece of plywood on the cockpit. We started by soaking the plywood with wet towels. This piece of plywood would have a significant bend, and this made it easier for us. However, the plywood was still very difficult to wrap around the cockpit. So, we drilled holes in the edge of the plywood and added eye bolts. We attached our ratchet straps to the eye bolts and pulled the plywood around. This worked very well. We laughed at the outcome. Because now, the boat had a big smile. After trimming the plywood, here is the final result. Our original plan was to complete the boat's interior in the garage. Then, we would move the boat outside to complete the cabin structure. However, at this time, we decided to move the boat outside and complete the cabin structure first.
So, in this video we have completed the cockpit, installed the floors and moved the boat outside to complete the cabin. Next, we will build the cabin structure, so stay tuned for part 4.
Sandy and I would like to thank our amazing family members, Colonel Todd, Robin, and Teresa, who have helped us with these projects. Without them, none of our boat building adventures would be possible.
As always, all of us at Backyard Boat Builders wish you fair winds and following seas.